Hi, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Benjamin Niaulin. I want to personally thank you for joining us for the Sharegate demo today. And first things first, I'm actually going to double check, is my mic on? Yeah, looks like it. Before I introduce more Sharegate, I want to say hi to Jimmy that's here with me to help me answer all your questions. The way that I usually do this is there are no PowerPoints. I'm not a big PowerPoint fan to do slides and show you, charts and stuff on how we actually work. Instead, I'm going to be doing a full and live demo. We're going to see how to use Sharegate to do a live demonstration, live migration. And if you have any questions, I have Jimmy with me from our development team and support team to be able to answer any technical questions that you guys have that I may not be able to answer during the demonstration. And to make sure that everybody gets to see what they need to see, I'm just going to go through this session. And if you have questions, please bother Jimmy. He's been hanging out too often in this demonstration without answering any questions. So I want to make sure he's got plenty of questions today. And then afterwards, we can hang out if you want after through 30, and we can talk about your SharePoint migration. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to help or guide or give you any answers that you need. All right, so you might have already been to our website, watched maybe our funny videos. Sharegate is free for 15 days. So that means you can go ahead and click on Get 15-Day Migration or go to the download section, and you'll see that when you click on Download Now, we actually have a download of the application. That means that you don't have to fill out forms, you don't have to, give in all your information to be able to use Sharegate. You simply click on Download and use it. What I did want to bring your attention to is that Sharegate does not require any server installation. And you can put it on your Windows XP, on your Windows 7, Windows 8, on your desktop, without having to go and ask the IT department, hey, I need to install something on the server, and then wait a couple of weeks, months to get the approval. So that's a very big plus for us. And also the way that, and we'll look at the pricing towards the end, but the way that we do all of this is that there's no volume limit. You can use Sharegate with as many web applications as you want, as many SharePoint farms that you may have in test environment, QA production. There's no per gigabyte pricing. You're not going to pay more because you have more inside of SharePoint. And then finally, you'll see that there's a great support team, but I'll get to that afterwards. What I really want to focus on today is I have this SharePoint 2010 environment. Right, so basic site collection that we're looking at today with some document libraries. Of course, I called it Sharegate, right? And this document library has some columns, urgency, link. Basically, I try to do some kind of simulation of what we're looking at. The document library has some custom views as well, where I did some group by. I have a site pages library with custom web parts on it, content editor. And so on and so on, and I have a bunch of subsites as well. So I tried to do my best to do a simulation of a SharePoint 2010 site collection or intranet environment, and I want to bring this to my SharePoint 2013 that's brand new, right? So if I look at the site contents of this new SharePoint 2013, you'll see that I've created this site collection 25 minutes ago. There are no document libraries other than the ones that come with the new site collection and no subsites. So it's a brand new site collection. And my objective is to use Sharegate to do a granular migration of all of this and pick and choose what I want and manipulate it so that it fits best in my brand new SharePoint 2013 environment. Also, you should know that Sharegate supports every version of SharePoint. So before anybody asks me, hey, can I use this to go from 2003 to 2010 or 2013 or Office 365? No problem. Right? Sharegate supports every version of SharePoint, and since we don't need anything to be installed on the server, well, you can go and connect to any SharePoint that you want. The idea, if you want, do you guys use SharePoint Designer, perhaps? It's very similar in a way to SharePoint Designer because you open up your SharePoint Designer from your computer, and then you connect to the SharePoints that you want. Right? And you work with it, you create your workflows, or what, et cetera, et cetera. Sharegate is very similar. You put it on your desktop, and then you simply run it. And this is what Sharegate looks like when you open it up from the first time on your computer. We've made special care to make sure that it's easy to use, with a friendly interface, We've brought in the designers and specialists to make sure that the area that we use for the application is optimized so that as how can I say this without being French? We are from Montreal. So basically, we've made sure that there's enough space to not confuse anybody. There's no menus with sub-menus, with drop-downs that have a special menu and a checkbox. There's just very simple usage of the application. So that's what we're going to look at today. How am I going to use what's in front of me here? This is the home screen, obviously, as you can see, of Sharegate. And what we've done is we've split it into different kinds of tools, if you want, or features. So Sharegate comes with a site migration section where in there you'll have a tool called copy site objects. And copy site objects really allows you to manipulate or move or copy sites, subsites, lists, libraries, workflows, permissions, anything that you want basically. That's a SharePoint site object basically. And then we have tools that are more specialized in the content migration. Because sometimes you don't really want to take the entire site collection, or you don't want to take the entire site. You really want to take the documents from a specific library and bring it to another one, but changing some of the things that it has, such as the metadata. Right? This tool, for example, will migrate a list or a library as a whole, whereas this one will migrate the documents and allow you to change a choice column into a manage metadata column, for example. Right? So it gives you more granular control over what you're going to do when you're migrating the actual content from one place to another. We have the import local file shares or network drives into SharePoint tool, which is very similar to the copy content. We have a new sort of a backup / export from SharePoint tool, which is particularly useful because it allows you to export entire sites, site collections, lists, and libraries into your computer, to your desktop if you wish. But it's fun because it doesn't encrypt it into some special file format that you absolutely need Sharegate to use again. It actually creates a folder structure with the documents inside, the versions. You can see all of them. You don't need Sharegate to view them, which is very, very useful in many cases that I've used it so far. And finally, as a bonus, the bulk edit metadata, or the bulk editor, if you want. It's because, frankly, the edit in datasheet view in SharePoint just never really quite did what I wanted to. It's always in read-only for the thing I need to modify or certain limitations. So we go ahead and created our own that's just packaged in all versions of Sharegate. So I hope you've already asked 20 questions to Jimmy. That's the whole point, right? To bother Jimmy here. So here, the first thing that I want to look at, remember, I want to migrate from my 2010 environment, and I want to go to my 2013 environment. So in 2010, I have this document library, and that's what we're going to start with. I want to migrate this document library as a whole, maybe change a few things, we'll see what's available in Sharegate, and bring it to 2013. So the first tool that I'm going to use is, I want to migrate a site object, right? At the moment, I want to migrate the entire document library. So I'll click on Copy Site Objects, and it's going to give me, or show me, a very, very simple screen. Where do I want to copy from? And all you have to do is type in the URL. So I already have it saved, my old SharePoint 2010 environment. You can see that I chose to remember this site. That's why it appeared in my dropdown, because believe it or not, I do this demonstration every week, so the URLs have been saved. And I can also make this the default, so that every time I open up Sharegate, it's always going to choose this URL as a default, because I'm always migrating from this location for the next few days, for example. And if you're asking, will Sharegate connect to my special environment that's another Active Directory? Absolutely. If you click on Advanced Authentication, you'll see that by default, we'll take your Windows credentials. So we'll take the username and password that you used to log into your computer. But you can always specify manually what you want to connect to or how you want to connect to. Right? So it could be Benjamin at Sharegate on Microsoft.com for Office 365, for example, and then I type in my password. And these credentials are going to be used to enter that URL. If you're not supporting, or for some reason you have a different kind of environment where this will not work either, or manual authentication will not work, we allow you to use your browser to authenticate. And that means that Sharegate is going to pop up a special window of your browser. It's going to allow you to log into your regular environment, the usual way that you do it, and then we're going to use the cookie that got created to enter or to log into that site, and we're going to reuse it to enter your site collection. So basically what I'm saying is you can always connect your SharePoint with Sharegate. What's fun, and don't tell my developers I said this, but I think they did a great job. Oh, Jimmy's on the call. That's not good. He's going to tell them. We added contextual help. And contextual help is awesome because when you click it, it will always show you documentation for exactly where you are in the application. And I have to say, the documentation is pretty awesome. There's tons of information, detailed to the letter, with pictures, with information, arrows. Honestly, they did a great job. I can't take that away from them. So what's fun is that we've added the Need Help button pretty much everywhere, as well as the top. So whenever you're kind of stuck or you don't really sure what you should click on the help. Great documentation. All right, let's get down to business here. I'm going to click on Connect for that site collection here, and it's going to show me the entire structure of my sites because it's asking me where do I want to migrate from, and there could be a scenario where I want to migrate only from this subsite. But in this case, I'm going to choose the root of the site collection and click on Next, and do the same thing because I need to specify where I'm going to migrate to, or the destination. So I'm going to choose the new here. Of course, authentication is still using my username, password, which is fine. At the destination, there's no humongous structure, just the root of the site collection. So I'm just going to click on Next here, and there you have it. This is the interface that we are known for, I think. Every time I go to conferences or when we get emails and feedback, people love the way that this has been laid out because it's easy to use. You have the source here on the left, you have the destination here on the right, and then you can cycle here through the different kinds of objects that exist within your SharePoint sites. So by default, of course, we're going to show you your list of libraries for the two environments, both the source and the destination. And so there's my document library, Sharegate, that I want to migrate in a few seconds. But let's look at the other things quickly. I can migrate my content types. I can migrate my site columns. I can go ahead and migrate users in the information list, groups that I've created. And boy, do I love this one because I'm always creating custom groups. And then I gotta go and migrate them or copy them to other site collections everywhere. Oh yeah, let's hang on to what I just said for a second. Did you hear what I just said? And I just had a great lunch, guys. I've recently wrote an article. When you go on our website, if you go to the section blog and you scroll a little bit down, it's still fairly new. You'll see that I've done an article on how to use Sharegate day to day. Because you can actually, and I'm not going to start reading the article in front of you here, but you can actually use Sharegate, and it can help you justify the purchase if you're trying to get show the return, for example, on it. Is you can actually use Sharegate even after the migration on a day-to-day basis to bring stuff from a test environment to QA to production, or to move things between site collections, like the example I've just used, where I've created some custom groups that I want to use for permissions in my site collection, and suddenly I'm going to need to use this on 50 other site collections. Well, Sharegate is great to just copy them around, and as you can see with the interface, it's quite easy to be able to do this. Same thing for permission levels, lists and libraries, content types especially. It's something that I do often, but bear that in mind. I'm going to be doing the demonstration today for a SharePoint migration, of course, but always keep an open mind that, I can do that between my different site collections. I can do that from going from a test environment to a production environment. And this is quite interesting, in fact, for our Sharegate application. So we'll support the migration of workflows. And to be honest with you, because I always get that question, so I'll answer it now. We do not support Nintex workflows, K2 workflows, or any other third-party workflows. That's other companies that have built software on top of SharePoint to do workflows. At the moment, we do not support the migration of those. However, we do support the SharePoint Designer built workflows, right? We work with SharePoint directly. So anything you've built using SharePoint or the SharePoint tools like SharePoint Designer or out of the box, reusable workflows, site workflows, we'll migrate them just fine. We'll also allow you to migrate your term store, either the entire term groups or just a few by holding Control, because you can always use Control or Shift if you want in this application, and just migrate the term groups that you want, or the term sets that you want to migrate and move them to a different term group at the destination, for example. So there's a lot of granular control here as well during your migration. Now, in a scenario where you don't want to break down your URL, your site, right? You're bringing this site collection into this site collection. So in the scenario where you do not want to break this down into different objects, you can also take the entire site, and when you're going to move it on the site, it's going to ask you if you, yes or no, want to include the subsites as well, and migrate them at the destination or merge it into the destination. What's fun is that if you do not want to bring all the subsites with you, we have them separately here, so you can pick and choose and say, I want all of them except the search center, because the search in 2013 is just much better. So I'm going to redo it at the destination instead of migrating the old stuff that I have. Right? So there's kind of little things that you have that are pretty nice and neat in this case. So to get back to our scenario, we're planning to migrate the Sharegate document library, right? And if you're not sure what we're doing, when you're looking at Sharegate, you can always click on the shortcut here that's going to bring you to the location of that site collection that we're migrating at the moment. So if I click on Old 2010 here, it's going to open up a browser window of my site collection. There I'm going to see all the lists and libraries. Sharegate is here. And this is what we're planning on migrating today. For now, of course. So how does it work? Well, you take it, you drag it, you let go, and then it's going to ask you, do you want to keep the same title? Do you want to change the URL of this document library? Most of the time people, especially here in Quebec, we often type some accents on the letter E or on other letters, which kind of creates weird URLs many times. Or people have created spaces in the URL, and now you have long URLs and sometimes causing issues. So this is great to replace the URL while you're migrating. You can choose to include the content inside the document library, and if you bring over the content, you can choose how many versions of the version history you want to keep, because versions actually take up quite a bit of space, right? So you might not want to bring over all your versions. You might want to bring just a 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 if you want, but not the hundreds and hundreds of versions that you may have from your previous version. Now, why do we ask whether or not you want to include the content? Some people ask me, well, it's obvious I want the content. Remember what I said about using Sharegate day to day. What if I want to migrate this document library from a test environment to production environment? I don't want to overwrite the content in production, so I'm not going to choose the list content, but I will say, yes, bring the custom permission or not, and do include the workflows. Right? So I'm bringing a workflow from a test environment to production, or from 2007 to 2013, without the content, because either I'm going to use our other tool that's more specialized in migrating content, or I plan on doing this later on. So of course we're going to allow you to migrate your custom permissions either at the library level, or if you included the content, at the content level as well. Then we're going to ask you if you're going to migrate your out-of-the-box workflows or SharePoint Designer workflows that are directly attached to this document library, of course. Right? And it's fun because, to be honest, I've done tons of those in 2007, and then I want to get to 2010 or 2013, and whoops, I want to make it work. So this is great. Site features. What do we mean by that? Well, let me give you an example. Have you heard of document sets, perhaps? They're kind of it's a feature that when you activate the feature at the site collection level, every single document library you create can now use some kind of super folders that are actually called document sets. They're like folders, but they do a little bit more, and it's only available in 2010 and 2013 and up. So it requires a feature to be activated. So what this does is when you're migrating a document library, it's going to make sure that every feature that needs to be activated for this document library to successfully be migrated to the destination, we're going to activate it for you. However, Sharegate is not a hacking tool, right? We're only going to allow you to do what you have the permissions to do. If you do not have the permission at the destination to create a document library, then you cannot migrate a document library, of course. If you do not have the permission to activate a site feature, then obviously we're not going to do it for you. right? The checkbox is really to migrate and to activate what we can do here. The recommendation that we usually give is to make sure that you're a site collection administrator when you're migrating using Sharegate. But it's not a necessity. It's the best case. It's the best thing to have. But you can have just the necessary rights to migrate the document library to the destination. Now, we can also migrate your web parts. But this doesn't make much sense in this case because remember the Sharegate document library? Let's go see it again. Do you see any pages? No. All I see is a bunch of Excel documents and PowerPoint documents. And last I checked, they do not have web parts on them. So the fact that Sharegate can migrate web parts in this case is completely useless. Right? It makes no difference whether I check this box or not, so I might as well not check it. However, if I was migrating my site pages, for example, then yeah, of course I want to migrate the web parts that are on them because I'm migrating publishing pages, wiki pages, or web part pages, and I've done a lot of work setting up all those web parts, so I want to make sure they get migrated over to the destination. And finally, this is my favorite one. Don't tell the developers again, but I love this one for a simple reason. In 2007 and in 2010, I was a big fan of SharePoint Designer and InfoPath Forms. And of course, with SharePoint 2013, we lost the designer view in SharePoint Designer, so I can't do what I used to do so easily anymore. So this checkbox actually migrates any customized forms using InfoPath or using SharePoint Designer, and any customized views or out-of-the-box views that you may have done using the interface or using SharePoint Designer. Right? All those views you did with conditional formatting and all those stuff. Very, very fun. I love this checkbox. So you check what you want to do, and then you click on copy, and it's going to migrate the document library over to the destination. Now it's a little bit slower. I'm on my laptop to do this demonstration with a SharePoint that's running on a laptop. So please bear with me for the speed. Sharegate will go as fast as it can based on your environment. If you have a very fast environment, it's going to go very fast. And we do have some very interesting upgrades coming very shortly. So what's happening at the moment is if I go check my document library here and I do in my 2013, if I go to site contents, I can already see the document library been created and 4 items. So it's still migrating my content over. If I refresh, I should start seeing new stuff shortly, as we can see. And I can see that the values have all been kept intact. All my columns, the modified date, the modified by, the created date, created by, we can all keep that exactly the same. Or we can allow you to change it. Right? I'll show you later on that we can actually change the modified date to something else, or the modified by to somebody else if you wish. So as you can see, the Sharegate document library has been, or is still getting migrated. I think it should be done by now. There it is. And there it is. It's been migrated. It's exactly what I wanted. And we saw that during the migration, I can do a bunch of things here. What if I migrate the document library again? It's like, hold on, Benjamin, that doesn't make any sense. You already migrated the document library. Why would you migrate it again? What did I say about using Sharegate day to day? Pretend that this is my testing environment. Pretend that this is my production environment. If I take the document library again, but this time I don't want the content, I want the workflows that I've built in my test environment and the customized forms. If I click on copy, it's going to say, uh-oh, it already exists at the destination. So what are we going to do? Well, we can merge with it. We can add any of the missing stuff that you just checked in the checkboxes in the screen before, and we're going to bring that over and merge it to the destination that, in this case, already exists. And that's just pure awesomeness. Let's do it. Let's click on merge. And what's happening is it's analyzing to see what's different. And based on the checkboxes, because I said I did not want the content, but I did want the workflows and the views and the customized views and all of that, it will migrate it over to the destination and copy only the things that have changed. So eventually, when it's done now, if I refresh my page, I see I have my custom views as well that have been migrated into 2013 mode. And any other customized views and customized anything, InfoPath forms that I may have had. So great. Now, what about the site pages? We want to see if web parts work. So in this case, the site pages already exist. And to be very frank with you, I would not use this tool to migrate my publishing pages or my site pages if you want. Usually, I would select the two document libraries and then choose copy content, which effectively launches this tool instead, which is much more specialized in copying the content from one document library. Let's just see it for 2 seconds. As you can see, I have all of the individual pages and I will have many more options to choose from. But since we didn't get to that yet, I'm going to close it and I'm going to do this like this. I'm going to bring the library over. I'm going to say to bring over the content with their web parts, click on copy, and merge with the destination. Now, I'm going to get an error or a warning rather from Sharegate in just a few seconds. Do you know why? Well, because at the destination, in the site pages document library, there are already 2 pages that always get created whenever you create a brand new site collection or brand new site pages document library rather. And that's the home page and the how to use this library page. And they already exist at the source in 2010, right? Because they're always created. They get created by SharePoint. So Sharegate gives an error or a warning, I should say, because it's not really an error. It's saying, look, there's a file that already exists under the same name. What do you want to do? We can replace it, we can skip it, we can rename it, or we can copy it only if it's newer at the source. So only if we've modified it, we're going to migrate it for that kind of a delta copy or an incremental copy as we called it. So you choose what you want to do. In this case, I'm going to do the following thing for every other warning I'm going to get, and that's not to copy it. Now, you might be thinking, hold on a second. You mean Sharegate completely stopped because there was a warning? That could be an issue, right? Because you plan to launch a migration of 5 gigabytes or 500 gigabytes, and you don't plan to stay in front of Sharegate to look at the little spinning cycle, right? You want to go home. You're going to go back to home for the weekend and come back on Monday. So the only reason why Sharegate stopped and asked me what I wanted to do is because I told Sharegate to always do that. If you go to File, Options, you'll see that I told Sharegate to always use the interactive mode. And that's to stop and ask me what to do. What I could have done is told Sharegate to always use the silent mode or to always ask me. And the silent mode, well, you guessed it, is going to be silent throughout the whole migration. Before the migration start, it would ask you what you want to do in case there's a warning, in case there's something that already exists, and you just specify it. It's going to do the entire thing and then give you a complete report at the end so that you can see what worked, what it skipped, what it did in every special scenario. I'm going to keep using interactive mode because I'm doing a demonstration right now. Now, let's go see if my page has been migrated. If I refresh, you'll see that the page does not have the little new icon because the last time it was modified was September 12th, even though I just copied it to this document library. So it shows you that I'm able to keep the modified dates and created dates again. Now, if I go to the page, I see that my content and my web parts have been maintained over to the destination. All right, so of course you can migrate content types, and that's pretty simple. I'll show you both at the source and at the destination. I have a content type called invoice and a group called custom Sharegate. And here there is no group called custom Sharegate, and there's no content type called invoice. So I'm going to migrate it over to the destination. It's the same options as before, and click on copy. Why is it copying? Did you see it says copying 1, 2, 3, 4 objects? But here we just have one. We have a content type called invoice. Well, that's because while it was copying the invoice content type, well, it had to copy all the site columns that are within it as well. And if I look at the destination under custom columns, I can see that my invoice site columns for the invoice content type have also been migrated over to the destination. So that's exactly what it was doing. And then of course, you can do it for users. You can look at a group, see I like this group, I'm gonna migrate it over to the destination. Okay, there we go, boom, we have the SharePoint 2010 old visitors group that we had. And of course, permission levels, you can do the same thing and so on and so on. What about the entire site collection? Well, What you can do is you can turn a subsite or regular SharePoint site, or the one that I have in front of me right now, into a site collection at the destination. So if I take the site here, which represents the URL I've selected earlier, the current site I've selected, what I can do is take the entire site collection, drag it to the destination. You'll see that it's all the same options below, except that now I can include the subsites, and I can take the navigation and the quick launch as well. Otherwise, the rest is the same. But at the top, I can either copy it as a subsite of new. New is the name of my site collection at the destination. I can copy it as a subsite, or I can merge it. Now, merging means I'm going to completely become the site collection that I have at the destination. Now, a lot of others will say, no, Sharegate cannot migrate site collection. That's not true. We can migrate an entire site collection, never installing anything on the server, right? Because we allow you to merge with a blank site collection at the destination. Okay, what about subsites? Now, of course, you can take a regular subsite, drag it over to the destination. We saw all of the options, including subsites, including navigation, workflows, custom permissions, and so on and so on. I'm just going to copy it with the content and click on copy. This is easy. I mean, everybody can copy a SharePoint site to the destination. The real power of Sharegate is, and I haven't talked about this so far, I've tried to give you an introduction level so far, but the real power is really here at the top. And Sharegate has a mapping functionality where you can always remap an old property or an old source, whatever setting, into a new property at the destination. For example, right now it's taking my team site A and it's migrating it to the destination as team site A. I could have changed the title, could have changed the URL, but what's most important for me is to be able to change the site template that was used to create this SharePoint site. So what Sharegate allows you to do, and as soon as this copy will be finished, I'll be able to show you, is as soon as Sharegate migrates your sites, it's going to be able to look through the mapping that you've done, where you could have said, look, if it was a team site, turn it into a community site at the destination, which is a brand new SharePoint 2013 site template. Or you can say, if I created a blank site before, turn it into a team site and vice versa. So of course, SharePoint creates some out-of-the-box pages, so we need to overwrite those. But you get the idea. We're able to migrate just the site, and we can actually go see this. If I go to site contents, I should see that my team A has been created, and it's probably still migrating. But I have my team site from the source, my team site A, here, who just got migrated into team site A at the destination. As you noticed, I did not choose to keep the home page, so I have the brand new SharePoint 2013 homepage. Right? Okay, let's get back to our root on both sides. Oh yeah, they removed that from SharePoint 2013. Isn't that great? Here we go. And now Sharegate is finished, but we want to go into the map of site templates. And this is really about what's at the source, what's at the destination, and what and how do you want to map. And we even have the different languages that you have installed on your server available. So you can take an English site and turn it into a Spanish site, or a Spanish site into an English, and so on. So here I'm going to say, if ever you see a blank site, turn it into a community site. There we go. Whoops. I modified the blog as well. So I'm going to put back the blog where it's supposed to. And then if I scroll down, I'm going to do the same thing to team sites. Instead of keeping team sites as team sites, I'm going to turn it into a community site as well. And click on save. Let's do one. Let's do number B for Benjamin. There we go. Obviously my name is Benjamin. I'll choose to keep the web parts though, that could be fun. And let's call it Team Benjamin. But the URL, we'll just call it Team B. And click on copy. You see how we can manipulate these things while we're migrating? And again, what if you just want to do from one site collection to another? It doesn't have to be always about migration. Sharegate can be in your toolbox. and use it all the time. So right now I can cheat and I can start going to my SharePoint 2013, click on site content, and even though it didn't completely finish, I can see Team Benjamin has been created, but it kept the old URL, which is Team B. And if I click on the site, I can clearly see that this is a community site with the community tools, the discussions, but it still brought over all the lists and libraries that are my team site. How are we doing so far? Good? Don't forget, ask questions to Jimmy. Jimmy wants some questions. He's probably hating me on the other room right now, but he can't get in, so that's the beauty of it. So go ahead and ask questions. Before I start looking at the other tools and local files to SharePoint, I want to cover the last two mapping options. But they are the same for lists and libraries, as they are the same for sites and subsites, as they are the same if you're migrating content or from a file share. So it's still very valuable to be able to see what happens in this case. So the same way we did the mapping of site templates, sorry, I had to drink a little bit of water here. We're going to be able to remap permission levels, and we're going to be able to remap users and groups. So what I mean by that is we're going to be able to say, look, I'm migrating a list and library, or I'm migrating an entire site, and whenever you see the permission level full control, I want you to replace it with another type of full control that I hand customized so that it does not include, for example, the right to create subsites, right? Things like that. So that's what the map permission levels allows you to do, is to manipulate all of these permissions that have been given to your objects, your lists and libraries, or your sites. Whoops. Go back to our tool here, map permission levels, and you can say whenever you see full control on whatever you chose to migrate here or in your sites, we're going to replace it with design, for example, or any custom ones that you may have created will appear here. Another thing is to map users and groups. So we can map your unresolved users and groups, people that Sharegate or SharePoint rather was not able to find. So if you have somebody that's no longer there, we can say, replace everyone that you can't find with the new visitors group. We're migrating from a file share to SharePoint, so whenever you see domain admins, replace them with the owners group, because those are the new admins, not the domain admins. And Benjamin is going on paternity leave, or he's leaving, so we're going to replace Benjamin with Brad. There we go. So now every time we're going to see Benjamin Niaulin as a user, or as a user group column in my task list, assigned to column, created by, modified by, he's going to be replaced by Brad Pitt. I'm sure my girlfriend will be thrilled. Unfortunately for her, no. So I'm going to cancel this. But I think you get the idea, right? You can replace users, you can replace groups, you can turn groups into users, users into groups, or you can map any unresolved people. So this is great, especially for those of you migrating from a file share. Okay, let's get to the other tools quickly. They're all relatively the same. If I'm not migrating a side object, I might want to be using the other tools that are more specialized into the migration of content itself. So in that case, what I will do is copy my SharePoint content, and as you can see, it's the same screen with our little contextual help. And I'm going to choose the same old environment, but in this case, it's not going to just show me the sites that I'm migrating from, it's also going to show me the document libraries and list, because that's what I'm migrating in this case. I'm migrating the content, not the actual list or library. So I'll choose my Sharegate document library again, but for the destination, I'm going to choose the new document library. Now, the easiest thing I could do right now is choose the document library that we just copied, because we know everything is going to work, right? That would be too easy. Yeah, the guy is taking the same library and migrating again to it. Woo! Now, what we're going to do, to complicate it a little bit more, I'm going to migrate my Sharegate document library. Let's look at it here. I'm going to migrate the content, which has tons of metadata, into my original document library called documents here that has absolutely no metadata. And I'm even going to go a little bit further. I'm going to go to the library settings. I'm going to go to advanced settings because I want to manage my own content types. Don't worry about the clicks. what I'm going to do is, do you remember the invoice content type I migrated earlier? Well, let's check if it works too. Let's add the invoice content type to SharePoint 2013. And now this document library that has two content types to migrate documents and invoices has nothing to do with the metadata that I had here. So how are we going to migrate this successfully into a brand new site in a brand new document library with completely different content types? Now that's the beauty of it. And that's why I'm not going to choose this for the destination. I'm going to choose the documents library that SharePoint created, and I added a custom content type. Next, as you can see, we lost the navigation on the left for the objects because we're no longer migrating objects, we're migrating content. All we need to see is the two document libraries that we chose. Now remember, if you're migrating from the same site, from the same environment to another site collection, for example, or if you're migrating from SharePoint 2010 to 2010 or SharePoint 2013 to 2013, if you're staying in the same SharePoint, you can actually migrate your branding, your page layouts, your style library, and all of that good stuff, right? Obviously, if you're migrating from 2010 to 2013, that's not going to happen. If you're migrating from 2007, basically, if you're migrating between versions, there's no way you're going to be able to keep your branding, unfortunately. Okay, so here I can see that I have access to all my documents. I can select them all. I can hold Control. I can hold Shift, or I can select a different view that has the information that I need or the filter on the documents that I need. How do we migrate? Well, you guessed it. We take a document, we slide it to the right, or we click on Copy, and then we let go. Now, the way that we worked, did you see the little animation? Let's cancel. Look in the top right. Need help? And again, if I click on this, I'm going to get sent to the documentation related to that screen. I love that. All right, let's get down to business. When I clicked on copy, or when I chose to migrate a document and bring it over to the destination, it asked me whether I wanted to do a full copy, include as much as possible of these things. That's version history, metadata, authors and timestamps, permissions. It basically it's going to try to keep all the properties exactly the same as it was in the document before. Now, will this work? Well, let's check it out. Obviously, it's going to copy the document, and it's going to keep all the values that it can at the destination. But if I click on the shortcut, and I go look at this single document, yes, the modified date has been kept intact, modified by. If version history was activated in this document library, I would see that the versions have been stayed intact. However, what happened to all the other properties? Right? What happened to urgency, link, and all of those columns that I had at the source? Well, because those columns don't exist at the destination, Sharegate just skipped them, right? It migrates the document, and it does a full copy, but as much as it can. If the columns don't exist, then the columns don't exist. That's why we have the ability to create our own custom template. And we're going to choose how we're going to migrate. And why do we call it a template? That's because once you create how you want to copy, how you want to migrate, you'll be able to reuse it over and over in other scenarios. So I'm going to click on Create Custom Template. And by the way, for those of you that are thinking, man, is he ever going to cover the file share to SharePoint? Well, everything that I'm showing you right now is the exact same options for migrating from file share to SharePoint, except that in the box on the left, it's going to be your file share, and on the box on the right, it's going to be SharePoint. But otherwise, it's the exact same options. So please do pay attention to this part as well, even though you're here for the file share to SharePoint. I am going to cover it, but it is exactly the same thing, so it will go a little bit faster. Right now, to start over, I took this document called Import Files to Sharegate. I'm bringing it over. I'm not doing a full copy, I'm doing a custom template, and I'm going to give it a name, Demo Benjamin. And I can see that some of them are grayed out. Some of the options are completely grayed out. I cannot check them, cannot change them. That's because the document library at the destination does not have these options enabled. So if the document library does not have content approval enabled, then I can't set the content approval to a specific setting. If it doesn't have versioning, I cannot include the version history. I cannot limit the versions to a specific number of versions, and I cannot check them in as a published version or as a draft version. So all of those are grayed out to help the user not get confused. We can also set or keep the authors and timestamps, so we know that works. We can preserve the permissions. We can preserve the web parts. Now, guys, pop quiz. Does this make any difference here? Absolutely not. I know all of you guys are muted right now, so nobody can answer. But you cannot migrate web parts because I'm not migrating web parts. I'm migrating an Excel file. So this I don't need. Correct links. Correct links simply means, and this does not include hyperlinks inside of your document. It means hyperlinks that are as metadata of your document. For example, these. The correct link is basically saying, when I'm migrating any of these documents, if I see any hyperlink as metadata that is pointing to SharePoint in the old environment, Sharegate is going to point it to the new SharePoint in the same location, but in the new environment. In this case, I don't, because as we saw, the hyperlink is to a public internet website, a wonderful site at that. But no, so this does not really do anything at the moment. But I hope it gives you an idea. Flatten folder hierarchy. Oh man. Yeah, that's a big one. Because don't be shy. Don't be shy. Everybody's done it. Everybody kept using folders. You told them. You told the users. No. The whole point of SharePoint is because we have metadata, we have columns. Stop doing folders. And we still use folders. It's fine. Let's give it a try. The next time you're migrating, try it again. Flatten the folder hierarchy. All of the people's folders are going to be gone, and only the documents that were within this folder structure are going to appear at the top of your site, of your document library. Now, we have a neat trick that I'm going to show you very soon, is we are able, using Sharegate, to take the name of the folder, and this is particularly useful if you're migrating from a file share. We can take the name of a folder and assign it as a property or as metadata during your migration into a document library. Isn't that awesome? You can't answer. Yeah, but isn't that awesome? And finally, again, specifically for those of you migrating from a file share, filter by time range. Select your hundreds of thousands of documents, but then say, only take the ones that have been modified in the last 3 years. January 1st, 2010 to, I'm lazy, no, actually till today, boom. So this is gonna take all the documents you selected, but it's only gonna migrate the ones that have been modified within a time period. Awesome. And once you've set all of these settings, once you've told Sharegate how you wanna migrate, of course you can save your template, and it's gonna be here. You can edit it. You can also change metadata and how that's going to work. You'll see two of your content types, document and invoice. And for each of those content types, you'll see all of the columns, including created by, created, modified by, and modified. And you'll be able to see what you want to do as an action for all of those columns. So what are we going to do for the title column? And you can see that we use the word mapped a lot, but now you know what that means. You instantly see the word mapping, and you should instantly go up at the top because that's where all the mapping features are. And we saw earlier that we can map properties. It's grayed out because I'm currently editing a template. So I can cancel everything and go map properties, or I can click on the little chain here. I can see what it's mapped to. So I can see all the columns here on the right, all the properties that exist at the source, and all of the map properties. I can see that right now, the title column from the source is mapped to the title column at destination. That's too easy. Let's go and take the file name of the document. Let's put that as the title. Click Save. Now the title is going to use the map value, which is, as you can see in the drop-down box, is the name column, or the name property, I should say, that's going to go into the title column. As for the created by, I know that we can use the map value, and it's going to take Benjamin Niaulin, or I can say, no, it's Brad Pitt. I should do one with James Bond. What do you guys think? In any case, I want to take this file, I'm going to migrate it to the destination, As my settings, I'm going to do all of this. And for the metadata, I'm going to take the file name, put it as the title, and I'm going to take the created by and set Brad Pitt. Let's go. That was my silence for my water. There we go. So now technically, if I go check it out, and by the way, you can always click on Show All Properties. Whoop, what do we see here? Created by Brad Pitt. Show All Properties. I can see that everything has been kept intact. The modified by was still mapped. The modified dates is still April 18th. Everything has been created except I chose Brad Pitt, and the file name has become the title property. Exactly what we told Sharegate to do during a migration. But wait a minute. What if I want to turn my PowerPoints that are using the document content type, what if I want to turn them into invoices? Right? Remember the invoice content type we assigned? Well, right now, if I copy them and use my template or the full copy, it's still going to use the content type, document. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to map content types either at the top or here. And I can say, whenever you see the document content type, I want you to use the invoice content type. Save, full copy. I could have used the template as well, just used the full copy. And we'll see that the content type column, there we go, invoice. And it kept all of the properties. And if we look at the show all properties, we can see that the file name has also become the title because it used my mapping of properties that I had set. Name goes into title. I could have done something very different in my template where I could have gone to metadata, invoice, and say, well, no. If it's an invoice, don't use the map value for title, use a custom value, or set other values that you want for invoice number and so on and so on. All right. And of course, you can use the map permissions or map users and groups. The real power of migrating content, though, to be honest, is with the export to Excel. However, I'm going to show that for those of you that have been patient enough to see the file share migration to SharePoint. So let's go back to home. Let's choose the import local files to SharePoint or share drive, however you guys call it. Everybody's got different definitions. I know I used the wrong one. And I just have to specify where I'm going to import to because it already knows what I'm migrating, my file share. So I'm going to choose my destination, connect. Let's take the regular Sharegate document library this time and click on next. Now we see the document library on the right and we see my computer on the left. What's fun about Sharegate is I can actually select all of these documents, for example, but I can also right-click delete. Sharegate allows you to actually delete files if you want directly from within the application. And I can access my shared drives, I can access my computer, my desktop, and of course on my desktop I have a folder called demo because I'm always creative, my demos, I call everything demo. And in there I have sublevels, folders, files, sublevels, files, and more. What I want to do is I want to migrate this over to the destination. I can do a full copy, I can create a custom template. As you can see, the options are exactly the same except for web parts because obviously file shares don't have web parts. I can still have access to metadata, I can set custom values, I can use my map values. We've seen all of this. And for those of you that are questioning the mapping of value from a file share, we actually allow you to extract properties from an Office file or from a PDF and allow you to map these properties into SharePoint properties. For example, the number of hidden slides in a PowerPoint, the number of lines in a Word document, number of pages. These are all Office properties. And if you want, you can extract properties from a PDF and we'll be able to use them to map it. But what I really wanted to show you here is how can I migrate this folder using the export to Excel. Let's click on export to Excel. And the beauty again of this, let's click on export now, is that you don't have to be the person doing all the work. You can get one license of Sharegate, export what you plan to migrate into an Excel, send it to your content managers throughout your company, throughout your business, have them fill out this document, set the metadata, add new columns, take the folder names and put it into a column, and then send you back the Excel and you use Sharegate to migrate. Let's see. Open file. There it is. I have the entire paths to all the documents I've selected within that folder. I can change the content type directly from here, right? That's how easy it is. I can change the values for all the columns that exist at the destination, change all of these, created dates, modified by, check-in comments, all of this stuff. And on the right, we have under each column the entire structure of those documents or folders right here in SharePoint. So I can say I want to take the folder names that they are in, copy, go to the source, and in the title column, we're going to take the column name, the folder name in which they were in. So let's double check. This document was in the folder sublevel 2. Yes. This document was in the folder sublevel. Yes. And this document was in the folder demo. Yes. Now, of course, I can do other things with these columns. I'm just going to save. I think you get the idea. Close. Oh, I forgot. Minimize this. Minimize this. Let's open the Excel again. What if we add a new column inside? Let's call it Demo Ben. And in there, we're going to put values from 1. Just drag that down because Excel is amazing. Save and close. If I open up Sharegate again and click on Excel, import from Excel, I'm going to be able to find that document and import my file share, and I can do my mapping of properties, and I can even see that Demo Ben column, and I can link it to one of those properties if I want it. And then I'm going to click on Import Now. I could have used another template and remove the folder structure, for example, or flatten the folder structure, as we mentioned earlier. Now, as it's copying, now we know that we don't need to go and click on the shortcut necessarily, because I can click and show all properties here at the bottom. I can see that this document, technically, what should the title be? Demo, because that's the folder in which it was. If I go to sublevel, title, sublevel, awesome. Right? So you can use the power of Excel to actually migrate your content from your file share to SharePoint and not necessarily need to install Sharegate on every single computer in the company. Send out Excel. Tell them to fill it out. Those users don't have to learn a new program. They don't have to understand SharePoint. They just need to understand that you need metadata, you need more properties, you need to write information, and then you're just going to import it. And honestly, guys, the two other tools is exactly the same way. The export from SharePoint, as you guessed it, you point to a SharePoint, 2010, 2013, it doesn't really matter. You choose where. You can either take the entire site collection, you can drill down into a site, double click, or choose a document library and another document library, choose where, and then click on export. Keep the version history or not, export. Look how it's going to be on your computer. It creates folders with the name of those document library, side pages, and that Sharegate document library. But on top of that, if you go inside, you have all your documents. That's the folder structure intact, so you can see the documents. You don't need some kind of special tool to see what we exported or backupped, or you just see them. And you're like, yeah, and you'll see all the version history if there was any. And at the root, we place the Excel file with all the metadata and all the properties. Simple. And to be honest, I used this on a customer just yesterday. We needed to export his entire site collection. It's in French, you're not going to understand anything. But I have all of it. I have my 2 sites, human resources, and I have all the sites and stuff. It's awesome. Finally, we have a bulk editor here, and it's the same thing. You choose a specific list, specific document library, for example, Sharegate, to change things up. And you just see that single list, single document library. You select what you want to bulk edit, and then you right-click, bulk edit, export and import to Excel if you wish. Use the mapping features that we've learned. Nothing's changed. All the tools are the same pretty much. We've tried to keep it simple. As far as reporting goes, click on any of the migration jobs that you've done, and then click on Migration Report. You'll get all of the details of what we've migrated, what was the result of this migration, what were the ideas, everything that we've done. You can add manage columns and see more properties that we don't necessarily show on your screen, and you can save your report into an Excel file. Also, if you go on the home screen, you can build your own custom report. Your own custom report means from the last 30 days or between, I don't know, 2013, January 1st to today, from all the sites or a specific site, from all the lists and libraries or a specific one, and then you can say, just show me the errors. And why do I show you this? It's because I want to show you that we speak English when we're migrating. If I'm migrating this group, the error is you do not have permission to view this group's membership. So we cannot migrate the group's membership. And on top of that, we give you a link to a help article, a knowledge base article that we took the time to write how to work around this situation. So it's not going to be like in SharePoint where, sorry, contact your administrator. It's going to be like exactly what happened. You can see by all the errors that I've had, cannot copy, you're not authorized. The object cannot be copied because this is a system column. It already exists. And you have all of this information. This is exactly what we're looking for. Time is short, but we are finished. Let's go look at the pricing and how that works. But before we even get to the pricing, what about the support? How does that work? If you're in a jam or there's an issue, well, we have, as you saw, the documentation. And I don't think anybody can say anything bad about the documentation. It is the most complete documentation I've ever seen. Hats off to the development team. You have everything here, right? I do not have enough time in an hour to cover everything, so this is great. We also have a Sharegate Academy where you can look at 3-minute videos, sometimes 2 minutes, and look at how to do a promote a site to site collection, how to export and import with Excel, how to do a file share to SharePoint migration. Basically, you have all the little videos and they're all under 3 minutes because I hate long videos. What can I say? You can also I'm not even speaking English anymore. You can also contact the support right here. The fun thing about this is that through the feedback that we get, we integrate them into ideas of what we're going to do in the future. And we show you that we've committed to them. So many people have asked us to be able to migrate alerts, the entire site alerts. And we see and we show you that because everybody voted for it, we planned it and it's going to be in our next releases. Same thing for scheduling migration. As you can see, many people have asked for this. So we've gone ahead and planned it in our next release. So make sure, even if you don't buy Sharegate, right? Even if you're on the trial or on the free version of Sharegate, we will help you out. You can contact the support. We do not separate people that bought Sharegate from people that are trying Sharegate. We all give the same awesome support to everybody. Ask us this question if we do not have it already. And one of the developers, see that's the key thing about Sharegate. One of the developers that write the lines of code that make Sharegate will answer you. Because we don't have a separate support team somewhere else that doesn't understand Sharegate. We have the people that write the actual application. And then we have this guy doing the webinars. That's me. So that's really, really fun because you'll always get quick answers to your questions. Whenever you call us, whenever you contact us, it'll be our pleasure to help. And of course, how do you buy Sharegate? Well, we come in 2 licenses. We have Sharegate Lite, and Sharegate Lite is only the content migration except the export. And the full version of Sharegate is everything that we saw today, including the export and including the copying of sites, the copying of lists and libraries, and so on. The way that we work to be able to have some of the lowest price in SharePoint migration is, yes, we do unlimited migration. It's not priced per size of your farm. We do work on a 12-month subscription. That means you get unlimited patches, software updates. For example, we released the export to SharePoint export from SharePoint, the backup one, and that was completely free for everybody that already had a license of Sharegate, right? So that's what's included in the 12-month subscription. The license and the pricing is roughly $2,000 for one seat. And what do we mean by one seat? It's one person on one computer at a time. Okay, not two people. You can deactivate Sharegate, right? You can go here, licenses, you can deactivate and give it to your coworker, no problem. But only one person at a time can have these set to activated when you only have one seat. That's what we mean. For the Sharegate Lite, it's roughly $1,000 or $995. You can, of course, always contact Martin, who's sitting right next to me, very quiet, patiently, to answer all of your questions. So don't hesitate to bug him as well, because if I'm going to be doing all the webinars, they got to answer the questions. Honestly, though, if you have questions, guys, don't hesitate. It's our pleasure. Thank you for attending. I know I'm 6 minutes over, so I really appreciate the time you took to be with us today. I hope that the webinar has helped you a little bit discover Sharegate. But then again, don't hesitate to ask us. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes to answer any extra questions that you may have. This was recorded. I'm going to put it up tomorrow morning. You'll get an email with a link to this presentation so you can share with your colleagues or other members of your team, or just check it out again. Don't forget, we do this every week. So if you have more questions after the trial, don't hesitate to come back. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.